Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stress Less, Accomplish More call. My name is Stephanie Matos. I'm a mindset coach here on the Brightly Thrive team. And today we are going to be talking about an awesome subject. Well, we always are talking about stress management, how to handle stress better. And Charlotte actually had a really awesome topic. We were just chatting before I hit record, and it's about this idea of burnout or just experiencing burnout, which is a very real thing. I would say it's very, very common. I have personally experienced burnout, and I know a lot of people that I have worked with in the past and even currently have experienced burnout. And there are some signs, signals, all kinds of stuff that happen before the true burnout occurs. And there are some ways that you can kind of listen to your body a little bit more quickly so that these things don't happen. And burnout is so when we talk about burnout, it's an umbrella term for a lot of different things that can happen to people. I mean, there's burnout can be, I need to lay on the couch for a week to recover from all the stress that I've just had, or burnout can be, I need to go to the hospital because my body's giving out on me because I pushed it too far and I'm burnt out. Okay. So there's a lot of it runs the gamut, shall we say, of how burnout shows up in people. Oftentimes, it can cause you to be sick, feel brain fog, fatigue, even depression. And when I say depression, maybe not clinical depression, but like I just don't, the things that normally make me happy aren't making me happy anymore. Or I don't feel like hanging out with my friends, or I don't feel like doing fun things. Like all kinds of stuff can happen with burnout. And so, what I would love to do, Charlotte, if it's okay with you, if you could unmute and maybe talk to me about some of the ways that this has either showed up in your life or people that you know, or something that you might want to learn about the topic.
So I have been experiencing mental burnout. A lot of the symptoms that you just mentioned fit me to a T. I
Okay.
think I'm somewhat coming out of the burnout, but I would love to know how to recognize it so I don't go this far again. And if there's any strategies to, I don't want to say avoid, that's not quite the correct term, but to channel it differently, you know?
Yeah, and essentially it's recognizing it so it does not become a detrimental thing in your health and wellness and all of that kind of
Yes.
stuff. And I would say I understand why you didn't want to use the word avoid. I'm going to guess, at least. You can tell me if I'm right. But one of the reasons why you're saying I don't necessarily want to avoid things because you like what you do, you like, how you live your life and all of this kind of stuff. So it's like, I don't want to just be a hermit and never do anything and, be this delicate little flower that can't, handle anything. You're like, I want to be able to handle things more robustly. Like, I want to be able to handle things so that my body doesn't take me down this track again. Does that sound kind of correct?
Yeah, that's accurate. Because you can't avoid it. It's like you can't avoid bad things in your life. You just have to learn how to work around them slash use them to your advantage. So I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. And I if I'm going to ask you questions, if there's anything you don't want to answer, you can just decline. You can even tell me in the chat if you're like, no, please know that this is your time. So I want to use it to the best of our ability for you. However, I also want to be respectful of your life and everything, anything that you want to say or don't say. But I would love so. The saying, I'm sure you do, hindsight is 2020, right? So hindsight is 2020. With that in mind, were there any little signs, signals, anything in your body that were telling you it's probably time to take a break? It's probably time to give yourself some space from whatever the thing is, the stressor was. Like looking back now that you're on the other side of this, or that you're on your way to the other side of it.
Yeah, my first one was my memory was going. I usually
Mm.
have a pretty good memory. I remember things from like years ago that we talked about in meetings, at work or conversations with people. And it got to a point where I couldn't recall what was talked about the day before. So
Yes.
that
I'm gonna
mental
I'll
decline.
I'll explain to you why that was probably happening in a minute. Okay, so that's a really good one that now moving forward you can be more aware of that sign.
Mhm.
Any other signs like that?
Brain fog for sure. I know that was kind of brain fog, but I think brain fog's different. I had I struggled to speak, honestly. I struggled
Hmm.
to convey what was happening, and I struggled to even think through problems, and that's my job. My job, is to think through problems and find solutions, and it felt like that was next to impossible for me, or at least it was 20 times harder than it was before.
Okay. Anything else come to mind?
Full full body fatigue, you know? Um, just feeling like I was utterly exhausted to my core.
Okay. Okay, let's use these 4 that you mentioned, although actually you mentioned 2, or 3, although 2 of them are very similar, which was the, memory and brain fog, and so what I would recommend that you do first is write down, like, just take some time to yourself, if you drink tea or coffee or whatever you might, have a little beverage, and just take a little journal and say, this was happening, that happened, that happened, that happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. And then you'll have a little like cheat sheet, if you will, of going, ooh, this is how that started last time and I don't want this to go further, so let me do some strategies now before it goes too far, right? So what's interesting about the memory and the brain fog specifically is that when you get overwhelmed, or I'm going to use the term overwhelmed, but overly stressed to the point where you are just completely overstimulated, it's too much, taxing the nervous system basically. What will happen so have you ever been like in an argument with someone, or let's say like a business didn't do the right job they were supposed to do or whatever, and as soon as you hang up the phone or you go home from the interaction, you're like, I forgot to say this and I forgot to bring up my receipts for this and I forgot to show them that video and I forgot to tell them that, oh, I should have said this and that. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Yes, all the time.
Okay. So what and it's kind of similar to, like, let's say if I am in a crowd of people, let's say I'm watching a presenter speak, right? And I'm just kind of chilling, taking it in. And then the presenter goes, Stephanie, what do you think? Or Charlotte, what do you think about that? And you're like, whoa, like I have an opinion, but I don't know what it is now because I just got caught off guard. And, this just happened to be the other in a meeting. I wasn't expecting our boss to ask me something. And so he's like, Stephanie, what do you think about this, that? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. And then after the meeting, I'm like, "Ah, I could have said this and that and this and that. And what I said was so stupid because my brain just kind of deleted, right? And so that's
Yeah.
essentially what happens is that when you get flooded with stress hormones, your brain cannot hang on to memory. So it's almost like it momentarily, luckily it's just momentarily, it's not for good. It deletes everything. And one of the reasons why is because your body is taking in information as if you might get hurt or killed or eaten by a lion or tiger or bear, or it's sending all of the attention of the body to the extremities, like it's like run, jump, go away, do this that. But guess what? You didn't do any of that, did you? You didn't go on a run, you didn't run away, you didn't do that. You just sat in your seat and went, what is wrong with me, right? So when we actually run or do something like that away, because have you heard of let's say the moms who get this superhuman strength to lift the car
Yes,
off of
yeah.
their kids or whatever. So that is do you think that in that moment they're like, oh yeah, I remember the groceries I was supposed to get and I remember no, they don't know anything. Their brain is completely deleted and all the power goes into the muscles so they can do whatever it is, right? And
Mhm.
so that's essentially what's happening, is that it's a survival based mechanism, because in that moment your body really feels like it's not going to survive. It's not real. You're just safely at work, or you're safely at home, or safely in your car, or whatever it is. So it's not that it's true in reality, but in the body it doesn't really matter, because that's how it feels. It feels like it's just. And so what happens is that when this now animals are, so like let's use an antelope. Okay, so an antelope, and you've probably seen like video in the Africa when the lions are chasing the antelopes and they're running, 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 running. Um, Basically, they have a huge adrenaline spike, which helps them run, right? And then when they get away, they just go and they crash, rest, but they don't have the same capacity to relive that over and over again the way that we do, if that makes sense. So, what happens with humans is that because we have such a complex brain, we're able to relive things as if they really happened now. So, let's say if I think about something embarrassing that I did 5 years ago, I might still feel embarrassed, right? Like an antelope or a dog or other animals like this don't have the capacity to do that. They also don't go, they run off of instincts, right? So
Mhm.
antelopes know they need to run away from lions, but they're not sitting there hanging out with their little not cubs. I don't know what antelope babies are called, with their babies, and and go, what if a lion comes? What if a lion comes? No, they're just like, I'll know when it comes because I'm gonna smell it. I ain't worried about it now. When it comes around, I'll know. You know what I'm saying? So it's not
Yeah.
like they're living in anxiety. They don't have anxiety around what if a lion comes, because they know that they will smell it. They will alert. They will know that by the sound. They have built-in instincts that help them do that, so they don't have to worry about it, right? Well, humans, what we do is we feel guilty, shame, blame, all kinds of stuff about the past. We feel all kinds of stuff about the future, which may or may not ever happen, right? And generally speaking, we think very negatively about the future when we're not in the right mindset space.
Mhm.
Um, and if you're approaching burnout, chances are you're not going to be thinking like the future's so bright and exciting. It just, those two things don't really go together. And so what happens is that then the future feels scary, the present feels scary, and the past feels scary. So you're kind of getting it from all angles, right? And
Yeah.
so part of alleviating symptoms of burnout. Now, the other thing that I was going to tell you is that I'm not shocked that you felt a full body fatigue, because, like I just told you, you're preparing for war inside of your body 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if you're not giving yourself gaps in that. So that was what I was getting at before, is that the antelopes, for example, they have very high stress responses that come up when they get chased by a predator. However, it immediately goes down very shortly after it goes down, and they're almost like it's non-existent. Humans are very different because it can be elevated by a meeting, by somebody not being nice to you, by an email, by something. And then we might think about it all day long, all night long, tomorrow, the next day. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
we're never really giving our body time to recover. So guess what? No wonder you're exhausted, right? No wonder
Right.
you were exhausted, because your body and brain were going, going, going. And I have a feeling, well, you can tell me, were you having trouble sleeping too?
Yes, but I do have chronic insomnia, so I don't know that I would have been able to tell the difference, but it was
Okay.
definitely more stressful trying to go to sleep, if that makes sense.
So if you have chronic insomnia, this session today is going to be really helpful for you, because that is one of the only times when we actually switch off, is, especially as people who think a lot and problem solve, and so because you just said that's part of your job, is
Mhm.
actually problem solving.
Yeah.
So guess what? You're like, if I do this and pull this lever and push that button and then blah, 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 like, guess what? Your brain's constantly going,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it's important to feel, so really the question that you had was like, how do you avoid this, right? Well, number one, first and foremost, you have to be aware of the signs your body gives you when it's starting to go down that path. And that's one of the reasons why I asked you this. However, I have a feeling that if you really sat with it, or even had just like one piece of paper that like you have open all week, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just thought of another one that was really weird, that happened and that happened and that happened, and then you'll have a little roadmap that tells you, okay, we're entering in that danger zone type of thing. Now, as far as, so what needs to happen is that, so see how there's like no space between my hands.
Mhm.
Basically what happens is that if there was a chain of these, right, it's like email and then driving and then this and, oh, I gotta feed the kids or the whatever, da, 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 like this. And some of it is just activities of daily living, okay? Because when you're full body exhausted, making dinner becomes a big, big chore. right?
Yes.
Or just like making the bed or anything like that, washing the dishes, like these. So what happens is that it goes like this. Ugh. So it's like they're all linking together, all of these different situations that are like stress, 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 right? That's why they call it the straw that broke the camel's back, right? It's like this one last little thing. It's like, oh, I can't take anymore. You wash the dishes, you know, or whatever. And so what we have to do is start to do this from the links, right? Where there's a little gap in between for deep breathing, for going out in nature, for doing something fun like going to a movie or watching something on Netflix, or smelling essential oils, or putting your feet in the ground or in the grass, or where I don't know where you're located, but somewhere like that, right? Because I know some of you guys are in Arizona. I'm like, I don't know if you want
Hmm.
to touch the ground with your bare feet in
No,
Arizona. I know
you
it's
do not.
probably pretty hot, uh, but I know some people are in Idaho where I'm sure there's some pretty grass and stuff. Not in the winter. You would probably wouldn't want to put your feet in the ice on the winter, but you know, doing something for yourself, listening to a certain song, or going to the gym if you like that kind of thing, or going to a yoga class or whatever it is, so that you can give yourself the space in between this and that. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And the more you can utilize the space. Now, sometimes this space you only have 5 minutes, you know, and what that might look like is you excusing yourself from your desk, going into the bathroom and just sitting in there, being by yourself and doing some deep breathing, or going outside, being in the sun for a few minutes, not enough to burn yourself or get super sweaty, but you know, just get outside, get some fresh air, feel the sun, feel the warmth, and then go back in, right? So these things can either be longer, where they're like, you know, meditative practices, which I could actually take you through a guided meditation if you would like.
That'd be cool.
We have time right now. So something like a guided meditation, that you can find those on YouTube, stuff like that. Um, like I said, smelling essential oils is something that can, if you find yourself in the past or the future, have you noticed anything about yourself where you might be kind of hanging out in the past or the future in your mind? Like, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, or got to do this, or I can't believe I did that and I can't believe I did this and that one didn't go wrong or didn't go right.
So I have clinical depression and clinical anxiety, so I live in both of those worlds.
Okay.
So,
So
yes.
cool. So I'm so glad that you were on the call today, by the way. I really appreciate you showing up, but I think this is going to help you tremendously, this call. Just to keep, because I do this twice a week. I don't know if you're able to join that frequently, but just to give you a little touchstone of like, okay, this is my breather. Okay, I'm reminding myself to be in the present moment. So if you accidentally are in the future and the past a lot, which I'm glad that I asked you that, things that bring you to the present moment can be very, very, very helpful. Just focusing on the breath, focusing on what muscles are tense. Essential oils are really great, different smells for different things. You know, like lavender can help relax. Orange and lemon are a little bit more, you know, and peppermint are more energizing, you know, but also focusing on the way that it feels in your nose, the way that it smells, the way that it feels in your hand, focusing on, you know, the softness of your shirt, focusing on the weight of a pen, focusing on water that you're drinking or whatever it is. All of these things can be so helpful to zip you back into the present moment. And you can start to use your activities of daily living to be in the present moment. So, for example, I can be very mindful while washing my dishes, or I can be completely on another planet washing my dishes, right? Or I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened, you know, or whatever. Or brushing my teeth. I can be completely thinking about the 20 million things I need to do that day, or I can be really in the present moment being like, okay, I'm going to brush every single tooth and I'm going to make sure everything's clean. Same with any kind of activity of daily living. We can either do it mindfully and in the body, right? So embodied while doing it, or we can do it very out of the body and in the future or the past, which, you know, I just want to remind you, we do not have a crystal ball. The future is not, most of the time, the things that I have stressed about the most about the future almost never came to fruition. Oh my goodness. Like, whether it was a meeting or a presentation or a training or anything that I have like lost sleep over, generally I'm like, why did I worry so much about that? When it's over, right? The past is already gone. We don't at this point in time have a time machine. We can't go back and change anything. So it's lessons, right? So we can learn the lessons. And really, the only thing that truly, truly matters is the present moment and being present moment focused. And the more present moment focused that we can become, the less burnout we will have. Yeah, it's so what I would say is there's two recommendations that I would give to you. One is write down all of the signs, signals, and symptoms that you might have experienced. You've already given me three. And then the next page, maybe you can write down things that you really enjoy. Like if it's gardening or walking or talking to a friend or coming to these calls or smelling essential oils, listening to certain music. Some people like to crochet, some people like to craft, some people like, it's very different or play an instrument. So I would get clear on like several things that you can do for you that you really enjoy to do that feel like a break, that feel like and something that brings you the present moment, including deep breathing, which is something that we'll practice in just a few minutes. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Cool. Does that feel helpful?
Yes, it does. I mean, I know about, um, writing down your triggers, um, but I guess I've never actually really gone beyond that. So this is helpful.
Yeah, and so even the triggers, so we might not have time for a guided meditation because I'm looking at the time right now and I'm like, oh no, I think we talked too much. Are you able to come back on Monday or Thursday of next week?
Yeah, I can definitely come back on Monday.
Okay, let's plan on Monday. What we can do is do a longer form guided meditation. So what we did was kind of lay the groundwork down.
Mhm,
And the cool thing is that even if there's other people on that call, this will still benefit them as well. So what we
mhm,
can do is kind of piggyback off of this one and then do the guided meditation side of things because it does take a little bit longer just to like explain it and all of that kind of stuff. Certainly longer than 4 minutes that we have now. But you just said something that I think is really important, which is a trigger, right? So what I had you do was write down all of the things that were signs, right, that you might be headed
mhm.
towards burnout. And what you just said is equally as important is what are my typical triggers for leading me to burnout? And if do you mind? I mean, and if it's too personal, you don't have to tell me. But is there anything in particular that comes to mind when you think about like, oh, that's a trigger for me?
Um, it's not immediately coming to mind, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you one of mine. Okay. I used to get this is before because I've since it doesn't happen to me as much anymore, but I used to get very, very triggered by emails, like the quantity of emails, how many emails, how long the emails were, how much I'd have to write back, what they were asking me, all of this kind of stuff. Okay. And so what would happen is that so this is a laptop that I have in front of me. So pretend it's
Mhm,
closed, right? And I would sit here, and before I even opened the laptop, I would already be stressing about what was going to be in my email inbox, right?
okay.
But there could be nothing in there, or it could be great things, or it could be somebody giving me $1,000. It could be, I didn't know what was in there. You know what I mean? So what I had to do was I had to first breathe before I even opened the computer. Right, was set the powerful intention that I was going to have a great day, that this was going to be awesome, that email can't hurt me because it can't, and that
Right.
I never have to do anything that I don't want to do, and it's okay. It's not that I never have to do anything I don't want to do, but if it's above and beyond what is like appropriate, I don't have to do it. So it's like I don't know what I was so freaked out about. And so what I would say is that if you have a list of triggers before you do that thing, the event of whatever it is, that's a great time to incorporate deep breathing, incorporate the essential oils, incorporate the music, incorporate the movement, incorporate the whatever it is that works for you to get you
Mhm.
back into your body and out of the what ifs and the scaries and all of the negative stuff that our brain starts to do and tell us. Uh, I hope that helps. Did
Yeah.
this session help today?
Yeah, no, it really did, and I appreciate that you took the suggestion, because it's like you said, it's a topic I think we all could benefit from knowing how to navigate it.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is to catch it before because what
Mhm,
happens is that it gets a lot of momentum. And once it gets past a certain point, it's almost like you have to ride it out until you're on the other side of it like you are now. If that
mhm.
makes sense. It's like it
Yes,
kind
it
of like
does.
just yeah, it's like, okay, I guess we're going. And so if you can kind of catch it between here and here before it gets to this, that is super helpful for never getting to the point where you're very burnt out. And for some people, honestly, I mean, if they see too many people, if they are around too many things, if like there's so many things that are different for everybody. So I think that getting clear on those triggers for you is also equally as important. And if you want, you can either, even on Monday when you come, you can maybe bring one of those triggers to me and we can discuss it, because triggers are not just like physical things that you do. So let's say every time I go to do my taxes, I get stressed out, or every time I da da da. It's not even that. I mean, sometimes it can be a trigger like a place that you go. It could be a person you're around. It could be a TV show that you watch. Like this is the thing, is that triggers are they vary vastly from person to person. So I think that if you can get clear on, man, every single time I watch those murder crime shows, I can't sleep and I already don't sleep well. Okay, guess what? We probably need to switch what you're watching before bed, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Epic. Love it. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today, Charlotte. I
Yeah.
super appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday. And we'll do a great guided meditation. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that I save about half the call, so 15 minutes of the call, so that we can set it up, do the meditation, and then talk a little bit afterward. How
Awesome.
does that feel?
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so I will see you Monday. Can't wait. If you ever want anything or need anything, please pop it into that Slack channel. And also, if you want to invite some of your friends to this call, you're more than
Will
welcome to
do.
do
I
so.
will.
If you, maybe pop it into Slack, say like, you guys should come to this call. No
I'm gonna
pressure,
put it
by
in
the
the
way.
I'm gonna put it in my motivational channel.
Oh, I
So,
love that. Thank you so much. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely.
All right, so I will talk to you so soon, and I will see you definitely on Monday.
Yes. Alright,
Okay,
bye. Have a
bye.
good one.
You too. Bye.